A pleasant good day to all of my fans across the world. Welcome once again to another YouTube presentation. I, Imo Rameses Bakari, your psychologist and life coach from the magical community of Point Fortin in Trinidad and Tobago, located in the Southern Caribbean. It is my desire to inspire you to rise higher. It is my desire to inspire you to rise even higher. It is my desire to inspire the West Indies cricket team to rise and take shape out of our eyes as they move forward. It is my desire to continue producing inspirational YouTube videos. And this will be done through research, through writing, through teaching, through community advocacy, through mentorship, through workshops, through motivational speaking, feature addresses, and any other medium that will convey our ideas, our philosophy, and our intention for development. We are willing to partner with you, yes you, because after all, you are deserving to become the best possible versions of yourself in 2024, and we definitely want to ensure that we are there side by side with you to ensure that this becomes a reality in 2025. So, as usual, we share a motivational word. And the motivational word is taken from the late great Calypso great Dr. Leroy Callis, the Black Stallion, the black man. We can make it if we try a little harder. And certainly, the West Indies cricket team can make it, but they will have to try a lot harder. They will have to plan a lot better. And of course, all of the other ingredients taken into consideration to improve their lot and performances. So, we can do it, but we have to do it with due care and attention and proper planning and research. So, we also take the opportunity to remind you of the services that we offer. We offer counseling and coaching services. We offer ongoing courses. Our 4-week course entitled The Fundamentals of Public Speaking, costing $1,200 for students and $1,800 for the general public. Our 4-week course entitled Mastering Emotional Intelligence, costing $1,800 for students and $2,500 for the general public. And our 10-week course entitled The Fundamentals of Psychology, costing $3,800. You can also buy my book Conversations, priced at 100 TT, 45 EC, or 15 United States dollars. Or any of the other books, such as A Tribute to African Civilization, costing 100, Remembering C.L.R. James, costing $140, Understanding and Appreciating the Life and Contribution of George Weeks, costing $150. All you got to do is give us a call at 1-868-778-5141, 1-868-779-2544, or email us at leadershipwithadifference@gmail.com. You can also support us by contributing through the YPay and Patreon links, or making a contribution through the account information flashing on the screen. So, the presentation today is on West Indies cricket. And as I mentioned in the past, this is not a cricket channel, but I have been a fan of West Indies cricket from a young boy to now a grown man. The pain of West Indies cricket is very much plenty to bear, but nonetheless, as one fellow YouTuber has repeatedly said, the people of the Caribbean are emotionally invested with West Indies cricket. So although many people may not, attend matches, they still follow in terms of the fortunes of the team, and many who would like to come, some of them are doing it contingent on improved performances. Of course, there are diehard fans who still attend, but as we all know, in terms of Test cricket, the attendance, generally speaking, is not what it used to be as in the past. So I want to add my little contribution to this current debate on West Indies cricket. In a previous video, I argued that, given the legacy of our cricket, that we should not be relegated to a lower tier. And I know that will come up for debate sometime in the ICC. And we are seeing more and more, given how we are performing, holding on to the argument of having a great legacy may not be sufficient to save us from suffering that fate. And if that is to materialize, we have to, in humility, recognize where we have arrived in terms of our cricket. There have been many arguments that we do not lack talent, and I will say yes, there is talent, but in life, talent by itself means very little. If talent is not refined, if talent is not developed, and if talent is not, converted into productivity and high productivity, talent means very little. Now, notwithstanding talent, to become the best you can be, it requires sacrifice, and it requires a lot of hard work in terms of achieving, that heights of development as will be required. So, anyone who is following the cricket, we can recognize, that from 1995 to now, we have been in a steady decline. Now, notwithstanding that steady decline from 1995 to now, we have had tremendous players who brought a lot of joy. Most notably Brian Charles Lara, and then there are other players who may not have reached his heights, but were very competent players, Christopher Gale, Ramnari Sawan, Shivnarayan Chandapal, often, underrated, but whose contribution, can be considered among those who have significantly contributed. Kalupa was a brilliant batsman, notwithstanding the argument that the kind of potential and talent, as I said before, talent alone will not cut it. His returns may not have been as tremendous as we would have liked, but we cannot deny, his quality as a batsman, as a fieldsman, and even as an off-spin bowler. So, notwithstanding the decline, we have had, a steady decline in terms of our performance. Now, over the last decade or even more, we have had this situation where our team have been struggling to make 250 runs, and 300 runs would normally be considered a great achievement given the struggles in our batting area. And many of the pundits and many of us have recognized that our batting group is technically deficient. All right? Some may argue cognitively challenged in terms of understanding and appreciating game situations and the kind of approach that may be required. That's another argument. But in terms of the fundamentals, and as one YouTuber rightly and repeatedly has said, that you got to master the basics, right? In anything in life, you cannot develop if the basics are lacking. We have known about the greatness of Brian Charles Lara, Sachin Tendulkar, and one of the features of their preparation and their approach to cricket is a lot of practice. So notwithstanding the great talent, these guys put in the hours in terms of net sessions, in terms of physical fitness, etc. Because for talent to bloom, it needs to be refined with the dedication and the effort and the honing of your skill set. So our batsmen, oftentimes do not get behind the line of the ball. They misjudge the length of the ball. They do not move their feet. And if you are a batsman coming up against top quality bowling, and you are not doing these things, you are actually a wicket waiting to be taken. And that has been the case. A lot of our batsmen have been LBW, trapped in the crease, clean bowl, or caught out in the slips, because you need great technical skill with high quality bowling to keep your shots away from Mr. Fieldsman. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean to say that you cannot get a nick, because the best of players sometimes will get a unplayable delivery and they will be caught out. But because of the great technical deficiencies, our batsmen in local parlance can be considered to be easy pickings. So, what is the way forward? We have a batting coach, and there's a lot of debate about this batting coach. We all know as a player he was, not highly rated at all as a batsman. We have also heard, and we know, that not being a good player doesn't necessarily mean that you will not be a good coach. However, at the end of the day, if we are looking at returns and in terms of performance, we cannot rate the current batting coach given the returns of the batsmen. When we look at the overall coach, Darren Sammy, and there have been many debates about it, give him total power in terms of management of all levels of our cricket, in terms of selection, etc. And logically speaking, that is a problem, because we know in life, the more diversity you have a better chance of a more balanced decision. It comes like a board of directors. If you have a board of directors with only engineers or only lawyers, that will be a problem. Even though it's something dealing with engineering, there's always a balance when you're talking about a board in any kind of organization. You need people from different areas of life so that you could have a balanced view emerging. So, logically speaking, more minds being brought to bear in terms of evaluating our cricketers, in terms of those who are deserving to be selected. Certainly it was an error to repose total authority in terms of selection in one man. That is definitely a problem area. And in going forward, I don't think it should be so difficult to rectify, but it will call for humility on the part of all concerned. It will call for those in charge of the cricket, those with the responsibility of the cricket, to display the humility to recognize that we need inputs from all areas. Now, even in the recent past, within the last year, our bowling has shown that it is effective enough to take 20 wickets in a match. But not in the too distant past, we were also discussing the inability of our bowlers to get 20 wickets in a match. We must not forget that. But we are very happy with the emergence of Shamar Joseph, Jaden Seals, and Azari Joseph as a group that is producing results at this point in time, and with the potential to remain a powerful bowling force going forward. But we know cricket is a team game. And coming back to the coaching department, given the level of technical deficiencies that exists among our batsmen, we will continue to be challenged to produce results. So the batting coach is not getting the results. That has to be evaluated. In the area of professional sport, there is nothing as too many criticisms being leveled, because at the end of the day, coach, when things work well, they get the glory in terms of whatever they did. So in a similar vein, when things do not go as people expect, the coach has to face up to it and recognize it is part of the terrain. As we know in the top level football, when coaches are not delivering, they are quickly relieved of their portfolios. So there have been many arguments whether Darren Sammy should be relieved or not. So put it this way, whether we relieve him or not, we have fundamental issues that must be addressed. So that in itself cannot be a solution. Nonetheless, he must recognize that he needs help, and he needs help urgently. The people in charge of the cricket, the West Indies Cricket Board, must also recognize that they must not reach out and appeal for the help of the Caribbean only when it's a crisis situation. So Our dismissal for 27 in the last test against Australia has sparked widespread debate. But if we are being honest with ourselves and the struggles of our batsmen, we wouldn't really be absolutely surprised of such an outcome. Of course, it is painful to deal with such an outcome, but given all the data and stuff that they speak about, we could clearly see that, eventualities like that certainly is possible in terms of performance. If you look at the fact that we were able to dismiss Australia for 121 with better batsmen than we, and given the struggles of our batsmen, so logically speaking, it is not surprising. And given the history of our performances over the last decade and more, it is also not surprising. Can our cricket be salvaged? Certainly, our cricket can be salvaged. But it requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of significant investment. The West Indies Cricket Board is not a secret service. And this board and many other boards in the past, they always speak with an authority that they have a handle on what is happening and they know what is to be done. And that's a very dangerous approach. I have argued in the past that the fans of cricket should be members of the board. But given the whole thirst for power among so many in the world, that such an idea might be dismissed. But when you listen to different people commenting, YouTubers, people in the public, there are many persons out there with brilliant ideas that can be tapped into. Now all the brilliance of the ideas will all come back down to a fundamental issue of having funds that can be invested, whether it's in terms of facility development. So we have some major grounds in the Caribbean. Some have been upgraded 2007 and even after in terms of the level of facilities. But we also need proper facilities at the very basic level, coming right up, that could, give people the kind of environment to hone their skills in a proper way. So, in the immediate sense, we need a skilled batting person to deal with the challenges of these batsmen. So, in the immediate future, we will be challenged in terms of producing productive output in terms of scores. But we always have to look ahead. And the simple logic that many have alluded to, and I'm also speaking to, is that we have to invest in 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, at least in a 10-year plan, to produce the kind of cricketers that we would like to have. But again, that will require the fullest investment of minds, of money, and of facilities, and of strategy to make that possible. All right? So you need coaches at that level, fully equipped. You need the facilities. You need the programs to develop these players in every facet of being a professional cricketer, in terms of the history of the game, in terms of the requirements, the fitness, the mental attitude, etc., etc. And that is a long-term project. So the glory that we are thinking about, we have to think about that in the long term, and we have to make the investment and put the infrastructure in place. So that's why I said our cricket can be salvaged, but the board and all stakeholders, it requires a lot of hard work, it requires a lot of investment, it requires tapping into all areas of the society. So we need top minds in HR, we need top minds in marketing, we need top minds in coaching, we need the experience and know of the game from the past greats, we need the input of fans, we need the input of government, but we need humility. We need a commitment, knowing the great history of the game in the region, knowing how it affects people emotionally and otherwise, that is certainly a situation that will require us to have a collective approach. We must have a collective approach. We must have the utmost humility. We must have a willingness to work together in within the long term. All right. Of course, in the short term, people will like to see results, and we have to evaluate those we have in charge, how they are performing, be honest with them, and make the best possible decisions in the short term. But in the long term, we need to dig deep and do some of the things that I am saying and do some of the things that many others have suggested. It will not be an overnight game. And when we look at some of the recurring issues in terms of some of the fundamentals of the game, it is troubling. We have a test team and we have our other teams, the T20 and the ODI team. They are deficient not only in batting, but in a fundamental of the game, fielding. A good fielding team enhances their chances of being successful in cricket. All right? And the level of drop catches, the levels of the number of misfields among our players, it is indeed pathetic. So many of you have not been speaking about a fielding coach, but we need an expert fielding coach to drill these players into fine-tuning and sharpening their fielding skills. Because if we continue fielding in that way, besides poor batting, our poor fielding will certainly be it's a double whammy in terms of ensuring that our struggles continues. So when I look at the last T20 World Cup and I look at our approach, and the approach and what I'm hearing being alluded to by our current coach is about playing our brand of cricket, and it is all pointing to what? Playing hard, hitting fours and sixes. That is the bottom line that is eking out, and we have seen that approach will not work. Our players are still challenged with rotating the strike, and that is a big problem. You can keep the scoreboard ticking, as many people have said. It's a fundamental of the game by piercing the gaps, singles, twos, threes, and keeping the boundaries in support of that, and certainly it will guarantee you a good score. But beside that, in terms of strategy, we saw clearly in the last T20 World Cup, we were beaten not only by performance, but we were beaten by superior strategy. Games against South Africa, bring that to mind, against England, right? Also roll that out. So we have to improve in terms of our strategic approach to the game. We have to improve our fielding, we have to improve our rotation of the strike, we also have to recognize that even though it's T20 or ODI, patience is still a factor. As I said in a previous video, DS Dhoni said that players have more time than they believe that they have. So you have the time. And no matter the form of cricket, if you don't have a balanced approach, if you don't have an approach to buy time, you will end up losing time. You will lose your wicket, and your teams will lose the game. So even though you may have the ability to hit fours and sixes, no cricket match can be successful solely on the basis of such approach. So this idea of calypso cricket, we have to play sensible cricket. And playing sensible cricket requires doing the basics, requires evaluating what is happening in the game, adjusting to suit, requires another fundamental, being extremely fit, because your fitness will allow you to convert a 2 into a 3. Your fitness will allow you to dive on the boundary line and cut out a boundary. Your fitness will allow you to dive full stretch and take a brilliant catch. So we have a lot of work to do. And when I look at the next World Cup coming up, we cannot be successful just by playing a number of T20 matches between now and the next World Cup. But we have to do the background work in terms of strategy, in terms of preparing with full focus, with full intensity, right? Improving fitness, improving thinking capacity. Because any kind of area in life, any endeavor in life, it is first thinking and then practice. And if the thinking is faulty, if the technical capacity is faulty, well then there is very, very little chance of you being able to outwit opponents who are not only dealing with data, but who are dealing with strategy, who are dealing with, with analysis, who are dealing with, outthinking the opponents, So this, what I'm saying here, others have said it in their own way. I felt compelled to say it, to make my own little input into it. And I am making the appeal again that when people are in leadership, one of the hallmarks of showing that you are a responsible leader is accepting responsibility. So Mr. Darren Sammy, you have to accept responsibility because you're in that position. But you also have to be open and willing to hear the cries and the pain of the people, and to recognize that the challenges you have, it may be really too much for you to manage, and there is a lot of help available, and there is no harm in reaching out for that help. So this approach of the board calling on greats in a moment of difficulty is a flawed approach. If you have to call on them with a serious plan of intent and development in mind, and work towards it, but not as a knee-jerk reaction. Not as a knee-jerk reaction in terms of deflection, right? And blind support. Yes, it is good to support those who work under your charge, but we got to be very careful in terms of, showing that we are responsible leaders, showing that we are humble leaders. And many commentators have already commented about the statement of Dr. Shallow about, attributing, the criticism against Darren Sammy because he's from a smaller island. And certainly that was not a wise statement. It is not a statement that suggests a mature leader, taking responsibility and who is really concerned about addressing the fundamental, crises that we face. It requires tremendous hard work. It requires tremendous effort. It requires a collective effort. But that collective effort mustn't just be an effort via a statement. It mustn't just be statements when the West Indies select a team about this is the best group of players who can carry the fight for it. Those statements are just rhetorical statements. Those statements are statements that really do not make the sense that they believe it make, because at the end of the day, if results are not forthcoming, those statements, they collapse under their own weight. If there is no foundation on which we can promote the cricket, we will continue to be in crisis for a long time. So, I reiterate, fans should be given a more prominent role. The former cricketing greats must be given an active role and not a token role. The people of the Caribbean in different professional areas can play a part. We need all facets of our resource to be galvanized in the short term, in the medium term, and the long term to help our situation here. It requires a lot of work. It's a long haul, but we need to see small steps, not on paper, but small steps in practice that could convince us that at least we are moving in the right direction. So I reiterate, if there is no serious program targeting the 8, 9, and 10-year-olds and giving them all of the developmental support that they need, we have no chance of recapturing any past glory. At present, we are trying to salvage a bad situation, and there are certain approaches that can be taken, right? Get people with proven skill sets, give them a mandate, at least in the short term, have small goals that you're aiming to reach, and take it from there in a systematic way, and in a way that will not just be, statements being made with no real foundation and platform to support them. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening to my contribution on cricket. I continue to remain a fan, but as other fans, I will always, as time permits, on my channel, which is not a cricket channel, make my little input, Cricket means too much to us as Caribbean people for us to silently sit by and witness its disintegration. And we, the people of the Caribbean, whether it's in cricket or in any other area, leaders who are not willing to listen to our cries, we have to galvanize ourselves and ensure that if they are not listening, if they are not willing to work with us, we can demonstrate people's power. We can be stronger advocates, and we can do all in our power to ensure that we keep the pressure on them until we can get the kind of leadership that can really help to work as a collective to solve this dilemma that we are in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing. And of course, I will be interested in hearing your comments as to how we can salvage our cricket. It can be done. Let us do it as a collective. Of course, I remind you of the work that we continue to do. We provide counseling and coaching services. We provide training in terms of leadership, in terms of psychology, in terms of social issues, in terms of teamwork. We provide training in all of these areas, and we provide the ongoing courses that you can support us in. You can book a counseling or coaching appointment. You can buy any of the advertised books. Just give us a call at 1-868-778-5141, 1-868-779-2544, or email us at leadershipwithadifference@gmail.com. So thank you for listening, and let us together save West Indies cricket. Bye, and stay tuned to another powerful presentation next week, please God.